This time on Watchers of Tomorrow, Alamarain, count to 4, Alamarain. Wait, it's Calamarain? Oh, whoops.
Hello, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi review and critique show that has the powers of a god, so we're used to. Anyway, my name is Geff, and I'm joined, as always, by my friend and co-host, Dr. Isix.
Hi.
And this week, we've got another one of those alphabet episodes.
Alphabetty spaghetti?
The alphabet, that alphabet stuff. I guess we're supposed to be worried about the alphabet things now. This is as close to alphabet things as Star Trek got in the 90s, though.
Yes.
Yeah, we're on the cues. We're on the cues again. Deja Q. This is when we are only like 3 or 4 Q episodes in at this point, and they already really have to stretch their puns.
Yes. Some of them get a little silly, but at least like the one of the better Q episodes in the to come is not Q pun of some sort. Actually, a couple of them are. If you count Voyager and Death Wish there.
I know. I don't know why they didn't keep the Q puns going. I guess any of the silly ones.
Yeah. If you're doing a Q comedy, then go with the pun. If not, then whatever.
Yeah, nothing's more hilarious than Civil War.
Well, it does reveal that the secret weapons that can be used against the Q is pretty obvious and low-tech. Muskets.
Yeah, nobody ever prepared for muskets. That keeps coming up in Star Trek, that like, if you just use a old school chemically propelled projectile weapon, everybody's like, what is this shit? We didn't plan for this. Nobody uses these.
Well, the directed energy weapons, it can, cut through walls and stuff like that. But, with, just a gun, it's like, well, you don't have the utility of it. So why would we ever use this other than it being really effective against the bad guys?
Yeah, they used it to defeat the Borg. Then they had it for like, we were developing it for energy dampened areas. Seems like a good idea. Mm-hmm. But then no, they just never use it, even though it seems like the obvious thing to try in several situations.
Indeed. You could even have like special teams that specialize in this sort of weaponry, and you deploy them in those specific situations, and and you're good to go and be more effective in your warmongering and all that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's nothing to do with this episode, even a little bit.
Yes.
Except that we proved that one of the other definite things that you can use against the Q is a fork.
That is very true. A nice fork. I'm not sure if there's any special qualities for this sort of weaponry, but enough prongs, I guess.
Yeah, it's a special listener fork.
So it's not a tuning fork. It's like the inverse of that.
Yeah, it takes in all of the sound. It's a listening fork, not a noisy fork. I've had a tiring week, and I think it's all coming out in loopiness.
That's all right. It makes us more silly, and maybe that'll help us become viral or something like that.
Though this episode was written by Richard Dennis, who worked on Booby Trap and did 2 episodes of DS9, and as far as I can tell, dropped off the face of the earth.
Yeah, that's kind of their last credits there. A few things before that, but I never heard of Harry O, so...
Yeah. Then we got some guest stars. There are some random people on the surface of the planet who show up on the monitor occasionally, who I'm not going to talk about because this is a bottle episode.
Richard and Betty, sorry, you gotta be ignored here.
Yeah, go get more, be on the ship. If you're not on the ship, I don't care about you.
Who knows? Maybe they have interesting careers involving video games or something like that in anime.
They might.
Yeah.
The main people that we're going to talk about are John DeLance, who is returning as Q. We talked about him as Q. We will talk about him again as Q. He is Q. Mm-hmm. You know Q.
He's also in a short movie called Identities that came out recently.
Yeah, something. I remember seeing something about that. It was in some sort of like thing. Might be on on like Nebula, that streaming service that everyone keeps advertising.
Yeah, it might have been directed and written by someone who's been on the show before here, Jesse Earl. So check that out.
Yeah, you can go see more Q. I assume he's playing Q because I've never seen him play anyone that's not Q. Even in the other series, I'm assuming that he's Q.
He's playing corporate Q, I think. Yeah. Though I will say that he did play a side character in Breaking Bad who wasn't all powerful and was actually kind of depressed.
Oh yeah. Except as all powerful as a airline flight controller gets, that's pretty powerful. You're in charge of whether the planes crash.
Yes, and they did that day.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he was in charge of the planes crashing. Breaking Bad spoilers, I guess.
A show that's been out for ages. Anyway.
And I don't know. I know it's ridiculous of me to not talk about two of the credited actors and then just randomly bring up an uncredited actor. But I also have Corbin Burnson as Q, who I only wanted to talk about because I'm rewatching Psych, and he plays Henry Spencer on Psych. And it's the best detective show ever made. I also randomly learned that he has possibly the world's largest snow globe collection.
Huh. Like, how do you get into that?
I don't know, but he just has thousands of snow globes.
But he was also, Arnie Becker on L.A. Law.
Yeah.
Which was running at the same time as this. And I guess that's sort of one of the reasons, he's sort of like the secret special guest star in this episode here.
Mm-hmm. He's been in all kinds of stuff. You will recognize him from something.
Mm-hmm.
He's a well-known character actor. He's been in too much shit to talk about, but...
Like the Waltons.
I like him, and it's fun that he shows up in
here. Full circle, The Dentist 2... Seventh Heaven, Baywatch, Quiet Killer, The Naked Ape, Vipers, Closets, Rust, 25 Hill. I've not heard of most of these.
Yeah. What was that new thing? That Emma Stone show that came out recently? Can't remember what that's called now.
Most recently, he was in Clipped.
Nope, that wasn't it.
Maybe that has something to do with fingernails? I don't know.
All right. That's everyone I'm going to bother to talk about. I apologize to the other guest stars who are in this show. I was trying to make things a little bit more streamlined, and I failed a lot.
That's okay. Sometimes failure is how we learn things.
Okay, so stories are happening.
Yes.
The Enterprise is trying to take care of a problem on Beryl 4. Because their moon is falling out of orbit and is going to kill everyone on the planet.
That seems like a bad time.
Yeah, they've got just over a day before impact. They're trying to push it around with the tractor beam, but it does nothing. So, great. There's also a weird noise that's happening. And it's not a real noise. It's not coming from anywhere, and the sensors don't register there being a noise. They have to stop.
So it might be all in their heads.
They have to stop the tractor beam before a thing burns out or whatever is going to happen with the tractor beam. Tractor beam technology is not explained well.
It's magic. Don't worry about it.
And then suddenly the noise stops, culminating in a nude Q, who is levitating a few feet above the floor.
Yes, and he is actually naked. That's how they had to film it because there was difficulties in... trying to film him without him actually being fully naked.
Yeah, I don't know why. This is the first piece of behind the scenes Star Trek trivia that I ever remember learning. So I saw this episode and my mom went, hey, you know that he had to actually be naked for this scene because they couldn't figure out how to film it without showing something if he was wearing underwear. Okay. Yeah. Cool, I guess. Weird that we know this.
But, it's just deal with it, actors. You're professionals, right?
Yeah. I mean, apparently, on Voyager, sometimes people would just show up nude to set as a prank, so I don't know. I know that there's a lot of exercises that professional actors do to, get over their shame and embarrassment so they can pretend to be made-up people in front of a bunch of people without it looking stiff and weird. I think we may go too far.
Sometimes, yes. Yeah, there's a lot of, I guess... I'm hesitant to call it superstitions and things like that because that's not what it is. But it's sort of in the same genre of thinking that you think that this is going to be doing the thing and you are putting into practice Not because, there's like supernatural thing here, but it's like, oh, this is totally how brains work. And, well, not really.
Yeah, if you embarrass yourself enough, you'll get over it. That does seem to be the general theory.
Yeah.
So now Q has randomly showed up. They are out of options for how to redirect the moon. They got Q some clothes.
Yes.
And they're kind of mad at him because he just randomly showed up, and they assume that he probably did this, given his past actions.
Yes. It's like, we have no reason to, like, think you're not messing with us, so, yeah, you probably messed up this moon thing, and that's why everyone's going to die, and we're tired of having to solve your puzzles, so could you just do the thing and make the problem go away?
Yeah, and he claims that he can't because he's no longer a Q. He was kicked out of the continuum for being a general nuisance, and now he's just a normal human.
Well, big if true, but we still don't really believe you.
Yeah, he says he chose to come here because Picard's the closest thing he has to a friend. Picard doesn't believe him, and then Worf's best line in this whole thing is like, what do I need to do to prove it to you? Die.
Yeah, it's a very Worf thing to say, and kind of, yeah.
And then he gets to take Q to the brig. He tries to annoy Worf to death, but that doesn't work, and this gets thrown in the brig anyway.
Yeah, Worf still has that sense of duty on top of the whole honor thing here, and he knows that if he just kills Q here, that he'll be breaking his duty requirements, so, yeah.
Though they don't believe Q, but they don't really have any choice except to continue as if he isn't going to immediately fix it all for him. Also, they get scanned by something. They don't know what, but it seems to be very interested in Q.
Interesting. Wait, is this maybe his, the continuum checking in on him?
It could be, or it could be something else. Ooh. Ooh.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Picard goes to visit Q, has no idea what's going on because his body is failing. He lost consciousness. Picard goes, yeah, you fell asleep. It's fine.
Oh. So scary. Oh.
I don't know what. This is such a common motif. There's also the, like, immortal, incorporeal beings in the Discworld series that basically die when they go to sleep because it's so unnerving and scary to happen to them.
I just continued. Oh, no.
Q does make the point that even without his powers, he knows more about anything and everything than anyone on this ship could ever possibly learn in their lifetime.
Well, that's interesting. So can you build us a device that could help move a moon like this?
Maybe. What's it worth to you?
Well, we can give you a place to live, we could feed you, that sort of thing.
So Picard calls Data down to oversee Q while they see whether or not he's actually going to be helpful. So Q actually likes Data. He's confused why he's envious of humans when he's like so obviously superior to humans. Data gives the thing that like he'd like to know what it's like to laugh and etc. Sort of a weird thing that it doesn't make a lot of sense. The way that they explain him wanting to be human never makes any sense because no one knows how to write this. Like, his whole vibe makes sense, but anytime he has to give an explanation, it's boring and confused.
Yes. It's almost like he doesn't fully understand the motivation himself. And so it's sort of like, well, maybe he's trying to justify it to himself by, oh yeah, being able to laugh and actually find something funny would be kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, they take Q to engineering, where Geordi is trying really hard to, push the moon. They can get it to its lowest point and push it and get some of that sweet Oberth effect. They don't say that. I just know that from playing Kerbal Space Program too much.
Yeah, if you accelerate your orbital velocity at the lowest point of your orbit, that will be very effective in terms of extending the far side of the orbit away from the planet. And then once you get there, you don't need very much acceleration to increase your altitude of your lowest point.
So Q isn't being helpful because he's distracted because his back hurts quite a bit. Data comes in to call the doctor, and while they wait, Q goes over what they know. The moon's probably getting knocked out of orbit because a giant something or other is passing at right angles to the system. So all they need to do to fix it is change the gravitational constant of the universe.
Yeah, and then your force of gravity is going to be lessened, and the angular momentum can be, just kind of taken away as it, circles about the lessened, less tight orbit. And there you go. You can return the gravitational constant back to normal once it's in a stable orbit again.
Huh. So Geordi, very characteristically for characters on this show, goes, "That's impossible unless I do these things, and then we can do it."
Yeah. So, basically, the gravitational constant of the universe is a constant of the universe. But because Star Trek has magical FTL drives tech, they're basically able to ignore some of the general constants of physics.
Yeah, I mean,
in a localized area.
We have a thing that lets us ignore physics. So if we can, extend our magic physics bubble around the moon, we can reduce its relative mass and then be able to push it.
Yeah.
Basically, they're doing the Mass Effect field.
So, surprise, Star Trek and Mass Effect are in the same universe somehow.
So Crusher arrives and fixes Q's back. She doesn't believe that he would be hurt, but he's got muscle spasms, according to the tricorder.
So at least he's simulating a muscle spasm.
Then he goes, "Ow," again, I think. He's like, "What's wrong?" It's like, "My stomach feels weird." It's like, "Is it possible you've never eaten?"
Yes. Your belly might be empty.
So Data takes him to 10 forward. He doesn't know what to eat because he's never eaten before. Data suggests that Troy gets chocolate because that's her single and only character thing right now. So Q orders a lot of chocolate sundaes.
10 of them.
Yeah, it's like funny.
It's like you don't know how much you can eat yet.
Yeah. While they're waiting, Guinan comes out to be mean to Q, basically. They're like, "We're not sure whether he's human," and she stabs him with a fork. Goes, "Yep, seems human enough to me."
The listening fork never lies.
We call this the reverse man who would be king. Then there's a plasma being, big cloud thing. We should be used to those by now, but it's another giant cloud thing.
I wonder if all these giant cloud things ever meet up sometimes.
Maybe the cloud thing convention. So the cloud sends an energy doodah to Q. He's getting energy mabobbled.
Getting all glowy.
Yeah. It hurts a lot. Seems like it's electrocuting him and dragging him around. The shields don't seem to do anything, but then they're able to change the harmonics. One of those shieldy things. The shields aren't working. Do a shield thing. Good, it's working.
Input some Beastie Boys into the phases and things like that, and you'll be good to go. It's fine.
So it eventually does work, and the thing releases him, and Q falls to the floor.
Well, Q, you seem to have been harassed by the local, space life here. How do you feel?
So they ask Q what's up, because something random is obviously coming for him. He reveals that these things are called the Calamarian. They just love this word sound.
Yeah.
So much. I know it's slightly different, but it comes up so frequently in so many variations.
It's like one of those prime, strings of sounds that just, it's like a meme, but it's like buried in the fundamental structure of the universe of Star Trek.
I bet what happened is they were writing this and we need an alien name. Let's have calamari for lunch.
Yeah. And then we'll just change it slightly.
Yeah. Now, Q says they're after him because they have no sense of humor.
Oh, so you piss these guys off.
Well, nowadays, this has this whole different connotation with our modern iteration of nobody has a sense of humor anymore. That's why it's so easy to offend everyone.
Well, this is maybe sort of a preview of things to come in that case, because Q's kind of a jerk, and the people that are upset that they can't drop N-words every 15 seconds, they're kind of jerks too,
Yeah. God, it's like you deorbit someone's planet and they get so mad. You're like, it was a joke. Didn't you get it?
Yeah, me beating up these people because they're different from me. You guys just don't get it. Come on.
The Picard goes, you knew you had enemies out here, and that's why you came to us, because you knew that we were obligated to protect you because of our stupid human shit that you hate so much. But, they can't really make protecting him their full-time job. So they're going to take him to the nearest starbase as soon as they can get away from, the thing they're doing. But first, you're going to help us with this whole moon problem.
You gotta move the stars for us one last time, Q.
So Q is tasked with recalibrating the warp field, manually. He sees this as completely beneath him and is bored out of his skull.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, he doesn't like respecting the chain of command, basically, is what we're getting at here. But LaForge goes nope, I'm in charge, shut up. Take orders.
But also, Q's not in Starfleet, so he maybe doesn't have to care.
Nah, there's some weird rules when you're on boats. Everyone on a boat gets integrated into the chain of command somehow, because you're on a very closed, we all have to depend on each other environment.
True.
So during their attempt to surround the moon with a warp field, they can't have the shields up. So the Calamarain attack again. This time, they almost kill Q. He's getting dragged out. They can't do much because they, are diverting warp power or something. They can't get the shields up as quick. And Data grabs him, transferring a lot of the whatever energy to himself while they finally get the shields up. And Data basically shuts down. They both collapse in front of the engines.
So Data might be dead at this point, so, that sucks for him. And Q, do you feel bad about that?
No. In sickbay, Crusher and LaForge try to fix Data and go, hey, if he was human, he'd be dead. And Q goes, well, I was human and I'm not dead.
Well, they probably want to, take you alive so they can torment you. Just FYI.
Yeah. Picard's kind of mad. It's hey, Data saved your life, dude.
So, you should maybe be grateful for that, maybe?
So,
yeah.
You do something here. So the thing they were doing did sort of work, though. They bought themselves another orbit, and I have no idea how fast this moon is going. For us, that would be a day and a half, but they're acting like it's a couple hours.
And they give several hour estimates here, and this moon really is kind of in a super low orbit overall. And so, compared to Earth's moon, it's 1/100th as far away or something like that. It's also a small moon.
But they can try again, but as soon as they lower the shields, Calamarain are going to try to attack the ship because of Q.
Well, maybe we can put Q in a localized shield situation.
I know, you could just put him in a containment beam somewhere.
Yeah, or maybe put him in a shuttle and have its shields up and things like that. That might work.
I know, they don't really discuss much. LaForge just sort of blatantly tells Riker that maybe it's not worth trying to kill everyone on the planet to protect Q.
Well, maybe we could beam him down to the planet and confuse the Calamarain about where he's at.
So now we get to have a fun little Picard speech, because Q doesn't really understand why Data would risk his life for him. He keeps saying, I keep going over it in my mind, and if I was in the same position, I would not risk my own life to save him.
Maybe it's time for some character growth, Q.
Yeah. So Picard goes, well, all you ever did was bring misery and torment to everyone, and I'm still not convinced you're not just playing some sort of stupid joke on us, but, Data's good overall. Maybe you should learn from that.
Data's, maybe the best of us, the most human after a sorts. So, maybe use him as an example.
Q concludes that being humans just made him a miserable coward, and I don't like that.
Depression. I understand. Troy, come here.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty obvious thing to do here, but Troy's pretty absent overall.
Maybe she's sort of actively avoiding him this episode.
Yeah. Oh, he shows up naked. He's like, no, I'm out.
Yeah, it's enough of this.
Sorry. Now I got to deal with random naked men on the bridge. Y'all can handle this one.
I'm done. I'm out.
So Q goes back to sickbay, and Crushers and LaForge say that they've gotten it to where Data can understand stuff, but they haven't been able to hook up his speaking subroutines yet. So he can listen, but he can't talk.
Yeah, so he's partially functional.
Yes, I don't know why you want to be human so much. You're not missing anything, but you're still a better human than I am. Then he wanders away ominously.
Yes. Yeah, this might be one of those cases where this is maybe a red flag.
So he grabs the shuttlecraft and leaves. The Enterprise sees that the Calamarine's chasing him, and against their better instincts, they try to save him with the transporter and the tractor beam, but nothing's working. They can't extend the shields, they can't activate the tractor beam, they can't beam him out.
Obviously, the Calamarian have figured out their systems and is keeping them from doing things.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
So, on the shuttlecraft, another dude just appears, basically. They apparently sent him over to keep an eye on Q, because it's another Q. They're both called Q. It's one of those we know who we mean situations.
Yes. Now, he's often referenced to as Q2, but that gets confusing given that there's an episode called Q2 with different Q much further along in Voyager.
Yeah. And also, they call him Q. Respect the dude's name.
Yeah, just call him Q.
Yeah, this is that thing that we always do where it's like, I have a small amount of trouble pronouncing this name that's in a different, language or dialect that I'm used to. So instead of putting forth any modicum of effort to try to alter my pronunciation for someone to learn their name, I'm going to make up something different and call you that, and you have to be okay with it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that confusing. If I say the 16 more times I'm going to refer to Q in this paragraph, you're going to know who I mean through context cues. It's not that hard.
Yes, just listen in and cue up some good thought processes here to keep ahead of the situation, you could say.
So Q suddenly shows up, and he tells Q that he had to keep an eye on him because the Continuum told him that he needed to be watched for a bit. And Q goes, "Oh, so you wanted to watch me die? That's fun. Have fun, backseat watching me get killed by the Calamarins." And Q goes, "Well, I would, but you kind of did a little bitty selfless act, and I can't go back to the Continuum and be like, well, right before he died, he learned his lesson."
So cue me showing up.
So he just gives him his powers back. Yeah. I was like, fine, just don't do it again. And then he disappears, and Q pulls the Calamarain into the palm of his hand, and it's like, "Oh, I'm going to torture you so hard." And then Q pops out of the wall. It's like, "Yep, kidding.
Yep, yeah, just they're fine. They're out of here. Yeah.
So he just basically poofs the Calamarain away. They're gone, and so is the shuttle, and the moon is suddenly back in orbit.
Oh, that's convenient.
They all go like, "Oh no, Q must have died." And then a mariachi band appears.
Hooray, we got music!
So fun. The way that they handle these things in this show is just like, well, it's actually a little bit sad that he's dead. And it's like, poof! It's like, oh, fuck, you're still here.
We're now going to give you an exciting rendition of La Paloma, which apparently means the dove.
Okay. Oh, yeah, Paloma. So the Q is back. He makes cigars appear. He materializes models, scantily clad women. Riker goes like, "Would you stop that?"
We could be happy that you are alive, I guess, but this is getting a little out of hand.
Yeah. I was like, you were more fun before the beard. And then he sends the women over to Worf, who's nonplussed. Picard kind of says, "Stop this. We don't feel like celebrating."
If you're going to be a spoil sport, at least you know that everything's going to be fine.
So now everything's back to normal. No band, no everything else. Whatever. And I was like, okay, I've overstayed my welcome. And he goes up to Data and says, well, I'm ill-equipped to thank you, but I need to give you something. Data says, don't make me human. Please, I want to get that myself. He's like, I wouldn't curse you with that. But, have this instead. And then he disappears, and Data just starts laughing uncontrollably.
It's like he finally got all the jokes that they've been, having come up around him in the last few years.
Yeah. After a bit, he just stops and goes back to normal. Goes like, that was a fun feeling.
Oh, interesting. I now know what being amused and finding things hilarious is.
Yeah. Then they get a message from the surface going, "Hey, thank you for fixing our moon. You saved us all." And sure. Yeah, definitely did that.
Yeah. Also, your alien makeup, it's horrendous. Could you, I don't know, fix your mouth or something?
Yeah.
They're like
Then
weird suckers.
everything's good, and they're wrapping up, and Picard goes, maybe some humanity rubbed off on Q, and he'll be better in the future. And then Q goes, don't count on it.
Don't bet on it, Picard. Yeah.
That's the Q's.
So did you Deja?
Yeah. Deja Q, Deja Thoris.
Deja vu. Very French. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, I always found this one kind of fun. Yeah, there are some things that are kind of head scratchers once you sort of think about what's going on and things like that. But it is, an interesting exploration of what happens when someone that is used to having all power suddenly doesn't.
Yeah, Q episodes are always fun because John Lance is a fun actor and Q is a fun character that everybody has fun writing.
Yes. But did we learn anything?
No. I think that's kind of an interesting one on this because they do show the circumstantialness of learning your lesson. He goes immediately back to exactly how he was. He has all this character growth and development, and then immediately back.
It's like, well, maybe he'll at least feel bad about some of the stuff he goes into in the future. Maybe. We'll see.
Which is just kind of... The entire precipitating incident is kind of interesting because, he ticks a lot of people off, and everyone talks about how often they show up and have to fix his messes, and he just, fucks with people for fun. He's just the archetypical trickster god who, as far as we know in these things, hasn't done any massive, serious, lasting harm. He just likes to show up and fuck with people for a little while and then leave.
Yeah, generally. Though I will say that his previous appearance with their formal introduction to the Borg was maybe actually helpful for the Federation to help them solve a mystery and also let them know that, these guys are out there and, they're bad news.
Yeah, that one's a little weird because, you aren't prepared for this right now, though you wouldn't encounter it for another 20, 30 years if I hadn't fucked with things. That's kind of a wash.
Yeah. But I guess, I still have my headcanon of the Q appearances not necessarily being in the correct order from his perspective. That this one could actually, from his perspective, take place after Q and the Gray.
That's true. We have no idea how they... Well, I mean, they see time as a continuous thing, and they're just pretending to not know what's going to happen for the benefit of the people they're interacting with.
Yes.
Because otherwise they'd be all annoying like the stupid wormhole aliens. Time was that?
I have my own thoughts about the wormhole aliens. That they specifically came into existence the moment Cisco started talking to them.
Yeah,
and then
probably.
they started existing both future and past simultaneously.
Makes as much sense as anything.
But the Q are a different entity altogether, really. So,
for as many of these all-powerful whatever the fuck beings they've got hanging around, they certainly only ever run into one at a time.
Generally, no. There is supposedly reporting that Quinn shows up and subtly interacts with people, but this particular Q is the one who's kind of most obvious about their interactions.
Yeah, we do see some stuff later where they're like, here's a Q that's running around human history and randomly saving people sometimes, etc.
Mm-hmm. And it was like, I gave this guy a drive, and this changed things because Woodstock's a cultural touchstone that everyone remembers. Hooray!
But as far as this goes, it's kind of an interesting one for Star Trek, given all of the stuff that we've looked at previously, because Star Trek really loves its power corrupts narratives.
Yes.
If you give a human ultimate power, they will suddenly become an angry demigod, and you'll have no choice but to kill them before they, take over and become a vengeful deity.
Yeah, specifically with the large rock.
Yeah. The Q is one of these opposite characters. He's already all-powerful, and he's a bit of a dick. Mm-hmm. And then you take it away, and he's immediately a sniveling coward. and then you bring it back, and then he's immediately a little bit of a dick again.
Maybe slightly changed, but only a little bit, really.
Which is actually kind of interesting, because as I've mentioned a couple of times when we've talked about these absolute power narratives, everything that we've seen and researched and observed with the whole power corrupts idea is more so power lets you do the thing that you were already doing, but more.
Yes. So if you were a jerk before and you gain more power, well, you're now going to be a jerk in mass.
Yeah. But then if you weren't and you gain more power, you'll probably continue to not be.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing that we have an issue with on that is the ways in which you have to gain power in our system often either require you to damage yourself morally, or you were already morally damaged to begin with, and that's why you were rewarded with power.
Yeah, so maybe we should stop structuring our societies where that happens.
Yeah, but we're not going to do that.
Dang. Well, so yeah, I guess that's a wishful thinking on my part then. But yeah, I do I guess appreciate that they're sort of showing this sort of alternative take that he's not going to suddenly become a paragon of virtue by not having his powers here. That he is, going to still be a jerk face, just now a more cowardly one because he doesn't have his powers to hide behind. It maybe showcases, one of the things with power corruption sort of narratives, that maybe it isn't that it corrupts, but it's you are going to see a change in personality with some folks in terms of how they behave, not because they are being corrupted, but their cowardice that was on display now that seemed to make them harmless is now no longer needed, and so the part of them that did want to lash out but was just too afraid to is now able to have the full ability to do so. But we're just sort of inverting the order of when things happen in this case.
I think that's one of the main things that you can see with the way that they've structured this is somebody like Q never had any particular reason to need to try to empathize with anyone before.
Mm-hmm.
And then most of his arc in this is interacting with Data is I don't understand why this guy did this thing, and now I have to figure it out.
I have to think about why people have motivations and why they do things instead of just reacting to something I'm doing. Huh.
Yeah, I got to play around and manipulate people and do whatever, and now I have to actually understand why people are doing things instead of just being able to control everything about the situation.
Indeed. Yeah, I will say that, taking in some information from a future episode, that the Q powers do allow people to influence their emotions and thought states, but Q really hasn't done that previously. He has more let them play out as they are, as themselves, instead of changing them to be fully his puppets in that case. So he's still putting them in situations where they're going to react according to who they are, and so he can still make predictions about that given his powers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they need to one, for storytelling stuff, you need to keep your characters consistent, otherwise it's boring. But the way that they characterize Q, he's just trying to have fun. It's not fun to control everything about a situation. It's never fun to have complete control over every aspect of a situation.
Yeah, that's in terms of storytelling, that also dips way more into horror here.
Yeah,
which is
it does.
Not what he's about. So how about that self-sacrifice thing there? And did the other Q did they make the right decision in that?
I mean, I would disagree with the idea that they have to judge someone worthy of life generally. The thing that you might be able to say is you come in and be like, oh, we didn't intend this to be a corporal punishment.
He just wanted you to experience life as not a Q anymore, and well, this is not going to serve our needs. So
yeah, but this is a very shitty plot line that I always hated. generally. The only difference that they did with this one is they just brought back his powers.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I have a lot of gripes with this kind of storytelling. Like it was something that I always kind of hated in, like, as much as everyone loved Guardians of the Galaxy 2 for all of its dad issue stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a storytelling trope that I've always hated. Of this person was a terrible, horrible person who did horrible, selfish things and was abusive and awful. But, he sacrificed himself for you at the end, which means he was actually the best guy. He's completely made up for anything that he ever did wrong because, he did that big self-sacrifice thing.
That makes everything okay, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I guess for me, that plotline in Guardians of the Galaxy does work a bit better, but it's sort of, for me than it does you, because it also acknowledges, like, yeah, he might have been, quote, a proper, dad in the context of the society for which he was living, but he was still a crap dad. And this other guy, Peter's, actual father, has no, interest at all in actually having that, playing that role for any of his kids, and is actually, using them explicitly to, as a source of power to be harvested when the time comes, and and so it's sort of like, well, this guy's kind of a jerk face, but he was a jerk face that at the end of the day kind of cared, but is going to still be, a terrible dad all the same. Well, this other guy is just a monster, so yeah.
Well, see, that's the other part. They didn't have that in this because they didn't have anything to anybody to compare him to.
Yes,
but that's the other part of that whole narrative that they love to have, and they just did both in Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, you thought you had a bad dad. You didn't meet worse dad.
Yes. And, there are plenty of dads out there that are terrible. There's also plenty of dads out there that are fantastic. And there are folks that are well in between both of those extremes there. And it's sort of a complicated subject. And, in terms of him being in that role, it's like, yeah, maybe they kind of tried to glorify his position a little too much there. Talking about him post that phase of Peter's life may have been a better approach in terms of justifying the, all right, maybe he was all right at the end sort of stuff there. Anyway, back to this episode.
Like, I see what they did. They need, storytelling-wise, a easy, fast resolution that they can point to and go, this is the character development that we did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Like, he goes, like, I will now sacrifice myself and stop hiding behind people so that they will have to protect me. And then they're like, oh, look at that. He has definitely learned his lesson, all right. And then you can point at that and go, like, yeah, he went from sniveling coward to self-sacrificial, which is not necessarily opposites. But as far as storytelling goes, you need to have, like, a easy, quick thing you can point to and go, like, look, character development happened, because we've only got 40 minutes to wrap this thing up.
Yes. I think I would have maybe liked the second Q fellow there to maybe, he's like, me looking at the situation, to me, it does feel like you're just trying to look for an easy out. But if I try to report that back, well, they're still going to maybe make arguments that this was actually an honest self-sacrifice here.
Mm.
So, and it's like, maybe have him be doubtful of the situation, but still kind of, all right, well, I'll still give you powers back, but be careful.
Yeah. They interestingly do imply that the main reason that he's going to give him his powers back is because there's some sort of version of Q paperwork.
Yeah. They do like their judgments, so having a bureaucracy on top of that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and with immortals, you don't want to know what the bureaucracy is like with immortals.
I'm suddenly reminded of some caricatures of the like Confucius afterlife sort of vibes there, or whatever. Where it's like, yes, there's and the gods are all about having a bureaucracy above us, and if you thought our paperwork here on Earth was terrible, wait until you get there. Anyway, so yeah, there's maybe complications with this particular twist at the end there, but maybe this would have been a good episode to turn into a two-parter, like actually a lot of them this season.
Yeah, they weren't doing two-parters quite yet, and
like Q finds himself in the situation, and there's some shenanigans in this first part here. But throughout, there's this sort of weird scanning thing going on. And then right at the end of the episode, that's when he's in 10 forward and, gets zapped by the Calamarain. And, he gets, do the shield thing, but he falls down unconscious and is like, oh no, dun dun dun, to be continued.
Which I can't decide. I feel like they both could have used extra storytelling time, but they also... there's definitely a lost art to being able to have an hour-long TV episode anymore.
Sure.
Which I think that they were able to, that's part of the problem. They wouldn't have had a different trope. They wouldn't have had a better explanation, because they always do the same tropes. So he still would have done a self-sacrificey thing to demonstrate that he'd learned anything.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly what anybody uses longer runtime for nowadays, which has always been my problem with the, proto... serialization that you get in some later Star Trek stuff, is that they mostly just do it to do a bunch of whinging in between plot elements that could have taken 40 minutes anyway.
Oh, don't forget occasionally bigger action set pieces.
Yeah.
If your space battle takes 20 minutes, it's better than 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, mostly they just used that so that you could look, next time the big space battle's happening.
Well, yeah.
We spent this entire episode working up to the big space battle, and now you have to wait till next episode to see the big space battle. Don't you want to keep our ratings up?
It would be nice, to not have to worry about things like ratings in building stories like this. But anyway, that's a whole rant, I think.
Apparently you can't get away from it, since Netflix is still worried about ratings in a system that just shouldn't matter.
Yeah. I guess the important thing is that if you and I became Q, we would fix this so that Netflix doesn't have to worry about ratings.
Yeah.
So if there's supreme powers out there that grant supreme powers to other people, that's a good reason to give us supreme power, right?
Yeah, but just creative people, anybody creative gets to make TV shows, and screw how many people watch it. Go nuts.
Yes. You'll be able to get all sorts of cool stuff out of the way that way, and be like the early YouTube days, except higher production values.
Yeah, and less racism.
Yes, much less racism. Anyway,
I don't have a lot else on this thing.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of depth to it other than what the things we've sort of touched upon. I could talk about gravity as a general concept, but I'm not sure if that.
We don't understand it. We don't know what it is, and we don't know how it works or why.
We have some pretty good estimates about how it works, but there's still maybe questions. Even in general relativity, big capital G constant does pop up. So
Yeah, I mean, we've proved mathematically that it exists many times and that we understand how it works. But what in the fuck it is, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It just happens.
It might be a spin to vector field. It might be a some sort of a quantum foam phenomenon that just looks like that. Could be a multi a manifold interlacing of different sort of subversions of itself, and with a flat universe, and then stuff on top of that makes the universe not so flat. But
Yep. As soon as we figure it out, we get to make gravity decks, gravity plating, and then we get to have fun.
But apparently we need to open up a lost box of those one people from, way back when in order to get that figured out. So I guess we need to go Gotta open up boxes now.
Yeah, that'd be nice if we discovered a civilization that had already figured all this shit out.
It's like, all right, so we've never seen the far side of this particular moon of Saturn because, well, it's one of the ones people found after all the probes went by. So we're gonna go there and look. There's a crashed spaceship. Let's go check it out. And it has everything we have to want to figure it out already set up. Hooray!
Yeah. And then we're manipulated by tentacle robots to something that didn't make much sense.
And then the event horizon happens, and
Yeah. Anyway,
so
maybe
yes,
maybe it's time for the galaxy's favorite game show.
Woo! Tentacles! Woo! Hey everybody, welcome back to the Galaxy's favorite game show. We got a few contestants who are in contention here, but really, we got some stars of the show that are really stealing this time. So the first prize is the Puny God Prize, which goes to Q. When he's lost all his powers, it comes susceptible to being stabbed. What does he win, Gap? What?
Q wins the Cult of Q. Because just because you're mortal doesn't mean you can't have weird godlike influence on people. He's just not trying very hard.
That is true. So come on, Q, start your cult, and in a few generations, even after your human body is perished, people will still remember you and worship you, and the other Q will be very confused. Ho ho! Our next prize is the To Die is Logical Prize, which goes to Q for deciding that, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one, I guess, but also mortality sucks, so I'm out of here. What does he win, Gepwin?
Q wins some lithium. I do feel like you could use at least a little bit of therapy in this situation, because you gave living as immortal a chance for like a week, maybe, and then it's like, nope, done with that.
Yeah, if the rest of us can deal with it, you can too, Our final prize here is the After School Special Prize, which goes to Q and Q, because Q learns an important lesson about humanity and being human, while Q has been secretly observing and decides that it's good enough, this lesson to undo the sentence of Q being banished, which makes Q happy. And now, with Q having his powers back, Q can go do things again. But Q leaves Q with a warning. And which Q am I talking about now, Gepwin? I don't know. What do they win?
I mean, I could follow that, but
okay, good.
They win one of those after credits behind the scenes things where you're seeing the back of the set, and they all come out and go like, "We had a lot of fun here today."
I'd actually rather like to see something like that there. Star Trek, have more behind the scenes stuff like that happen. It'd be cool.
No, nowadays we'd have, if you or someone you know are contemplating sacrificing yourself to a plasma entity that has unknowable cosmic powers, please call
1-800-PLASMAS. But anyway, that's all I got here for this week. Gepwin, feel free to take us away.
Yes, thanks for joining us and putting up with this thing that we call the Galaxy's favorite game show. I got the name of my own damn segment. Oh, next time, I think we are going to have a super short episode that is like 5 minutes of content, but we're going to have to say it 6 times.
Yes. Just keeps going over and over again. But it's not a time travel episode, oddly enough.
No, it is apparently inspired by the Akira Kurosawa 1950s film Rashomon. So maybe go watch that instead.
Yeah, and then you'll know what this episode's about.
Yeah. I'm not sure how. I have not seen that. But you should. And then you won't have to listen to us talk about it next week. But I know that's really what y'all are here for, is to not have to hear us talk.
That's not how I remember it.
Man, this is the end of the episode. Anybody who's made it this far, which by our YouTube algorithmics is not many people.
Oh, well, we're talking to you, a specific person who's left here.
Yeah,
you're awesome.
One guy, Dave.
Yeah, and we're gonna give you a hug, but we can't physically do it, so we're doing it with our words here.
Yeah. High five for
High five.
getting through this episode. Yeah.
So,
Anyway, yeah. Next time we've got a weird murder mystery plot line that is kind of cool. I like the way that they structure it. It's a kind of a neat one. They accidentally back themselves into a really bad corner that they obviously don't want you to think about too hard.
But, that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of Star Trek plots would kind of fall apart if you think about them too hard.
Yeah, this one very specifically gets into a really, really bad place if you think about the logic of it for more than a couple minutes, unfortunately. See if you can guess whether it's racism or sexism.
On the next episode of Watchers of Tomorrow.
Yeah, racism, sexism, or colonialism. That's our new game show.
Well, I'm not sure if that's really new for us.
Yeah.
We do
Also, they're all so interlinked. It doesn't make a lot of sense to draw hard line distinctions.
True. People trying to control other people and, trying to exploit them, and coming up with shitty explanations for why,
Yeah. Also, there's even worse police next time. Well, I guess not quite as bad. We just had the super fascist police a few episodes ago. So.
True. Wait, I'm suddenly realizing Worf's a cop.
I don't know. Military security seems different somehow.
But if there's like a throwdown in 10 forward between civilians, he's still going to be on the people that gets called.
Yeah, but you never see him beating up someone for random vandalism. So can you really call him a cop?
That's true. He's much more restrained than an actual cop. So okay. I can be cool with him then. Anyway, a matter of perspective.
Yes. We're going to see a perspective, and then another perspective, and then another perspective, then another perspective, and then they get really lucky and resolve the episode.
Hooray! Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, Rashomon versus Riker. You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix and Twitter @IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you, that is now, no longer exists.